Show. Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Hello, everybody. I don't know if you can hear me or if you're even there. Wednesday show. The whole thing is going completely different. We're doing a brand new thing today. We're trying a brand new way of broadcasting, a brand new way of talking to you guys, a brand new way of interacting with you guys. But because of it, I'm hoping that it's going to be working all right. Because right now it's showing no one. I'm not sure. I have no idea. There we go. Now it's saying people are coming on. So what we're doing tonight for the first time ever is we're doing a live broadcast over on the From Screen to Theme Facebook page, which some of you guys might be on, along with over on YouTube, which some of you guys might be on. I have no idea. I have no idea how this is going to work, if it's going to work or whatnot, but we're just trying it out tonight to see if it works okay. So send it right in the comments right now, because I have no idea if anyone's actually coming through, if this is actually working for anyone. Hopefully it's working for people. So tonight we're going to be talking all about the Tower of Terror and going through the history, the fun facts, the walkthrough, all that other fun stuff. Hello, there we go. And apparently I can go like this. And look, your face pops up down here and it says hello. That's kind of cool. So if you guys say something funny during the show, maybe I'll throw it down on the bottom so everyone can see it. Yeah, so I have no idea how this works. We're going to learn together here today. Hey, how's everyone doing out there? You guys doing good? Hopefully everyone's doing good. Yeah, I'm watching from YouTube, and you're a tiger on YouTube. Wow. All right. This is pretty cool. I kind of like it. I have no idea what to expect with this, but like I said, if you guys have questions or anything, this is kind of perfect, because sometimes you guys fall behind and you guys are like, what question is he answering right now? That's my impersonation of some of you, not all of you. Then it goes through and I can put the question down here so you guys know what we're doing. Also, it's kind of cool because up here, I don't know if it shows on your screen, but it shows like how many likes we're doing. Yeah, look at that. This is so cool. I like the idea that we can have your comments pop up on the screen. That makes me happy. That actually makes me very happy that we can do that. Does it stand for? I don't know. I'm closing it down. Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking all about the Tower of Terror. Like I said, we're going to be going through the history, fun facts, doing a walkthrough of the attraction, all that other fun stuff. So let's get this party started. This is going to be episode 636 of the Wednesday show. We're going to start it in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 636th episode of the Wednesday show. Today is October 27th, 2021, and I'm your host, as always, Brent Dodge. Hello. That also means tomorrow's my mom's birthday, so if you know my mom, say happy birthday, Mom. Tonight we're going to be talking all about the Tower of Terror in honor of Halloween being right around the corner. But of course, before we get to that, let's talk about our news for the week. As always, make sure you join us every single week for our Saturday in the Pocket. You already know, every single Saturday right on the Facebook page. I don't know if we can do the dual broadcast yet, but we'll look into that. But over on the From Screen Theme Facebook page, which some of you guys are on, we do a live broadcast every single Saturday right here on this channel at 1 o'clock Eastern Time from someplace found throughout the Walt Disney World Resort. Make sure you join us every single Saturday for that broadcast. We are also going to try to figure out if we can somehow get this dual broadcast thing working over there so you guys can check it out either on YouTube or Facebook. Your call. We'll see what happens. And of course, as always, tonight's show is sponsored by It's All About the Mouse Travel. Make sure you stop by itsallaboutthemousetravel.com for all of your Disney travel needs. All of their services are absolutely, positively, 100% free. So make sure you book with them for your next Disney vacation. Side note, and I'm not just like begging for likes here. Someone who's watching on YouTube, can you guys like the video? Because I'm just curious. Because up here on here, it shows me like who's liking this stuff. And I don't know if that's just on Facebook or if it shows up on YouTube too. I'm just curious, and I don't want the likes. Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking all about the Tower of Terror, which I've already told you guys a few times. And we're going to be going through everything. Now, before we get through this, look at that. Oh, your new videos are great. Thank you so much. I like the fact that you guys can compliment me and I can brag about myself on the screen. That just makes it a lot better. You just liked it. Okay, so now I'm very curious because that does not pop up on there. So wait, that maybe if I go. Oh, okay. So it shows me how many people are watching on Facebook and how many people are watching on YouTube. That's kind of interesting too. Okay, so let's get this party started. We're going to go through. If you guys have any questions that you guys want to have answered about the Tower of Terror while we're going through this entire process tonight, make sure you throw those questions into the comments. I believe the comments are still working the same way. I have no idea. I'm on a completely different website, so I think it's working the same way for you guys as it always is, but I have no idea because, like that right there, the Frank fam has it on the one thing. And there you go. My mom says, thank you for all the well wishes. So if you guys have any questions, we're going to throw those questions up in the thing too. I'm still kind of like learning how this whole thing works, how the operation works here, but I'm liking it so far. So let's continue going on here. But there are going to be times tonight where I'm going to be like kind of freaking out about how this works. Because you guys know me, I just get excited about nothing at all. And this is nothing at all. But I'm going to get so excited about it. There's other options on here too, where I could like, what are the other things I can do here? I don't want to push any buttons without. We'll probably do another a test broadcast sometime in the near future. All right, so let's talk about the Tower of Terror. Tower of Terror, let's start off at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Are there filters? I have no idea. I literally just downloaded this about 5 minutes before the show started. Wait, so I can do like... Let's see if we can do this, right? Can we do that? Oh, look at that. At the bottom it says, hey, everyone, you rock. Oh, okay. I can get on board with this. Okay. Wow. Okay. I'm kind of freaking out about all this stuff. I apologize to anyone who's watching the Wednesday show for the first time over on YouTube that has never seen one of my shows before, and they're like, who's this guy and why is he just like freaking out about everything? I just freak out a lot about different things. Well, also giving you some fun facts. All right, let's start off where the beginning of the Tower of Terror story should begin, which is Epcot, actually. So when the Disney studio had finished Epcot back in 1982, a few years later, we had Michael Eisner and Frank Wells came into the Walt Disney Company, and they kind of shuffled everything up. Now, I don't know who shuffles like that, but apparently that's how they shuffled. So when they wanted to shuffle things up, they wanted to bring brand new experiences to a lot of different things. Now, one of the things that they were working on at Disney's Imagineering, they were working on a brand new pavilion for Epcot Center called, that's right, the Movie Pavilion, which we've all talked about several times in the past. It eventually led to things like the Great Movie Ride and, of course, Disney's Hollywood Studios. So when they came up with this idea of eventually what would become Disney MGM Studios at the start, eventually Disney's Hollywood Studios, they came up with this idea, and Michael Eisner said that shouldn't just be a pavilion, that should be an entire park. At the same time, when he was going through Walt Disney Imagineering, he was trying to figure out brand new experiences that would be coming into the Disney parks. One of these things, he actually brought his son in, who was a teenager at the time, and he wanted him to kind of be the person who would okay attractions. So people like Tony Baxter had their entire job put on the line because of a 13-year-old boy. So one of the things that he came up with was the idea of Star Tours. And when he came up with the idea of Star Tours, they were like, oh, that's really cool. Like, maybe we should have some more thrill rides in the parks, man. That's not how they talk. That's just historical representation. So So when they were coming through and coming up with these brand new ideas, Michael Eisner came up with an idea shortly after that he wanted to bring over to a park, and he wasn't sure where yet, but he wanted to have some sort of drop ride attraction because he had done different drop ride attractions at different fairs and different parks around the world that were not Disney parks, and he thought that would be a great addition to bring into Disneyland or Walt Disney World. And the idea was kind of just thrown in the air, and they said, we don't really know what we're going to do with it, but sometime in the future, we'll do it. Come 1989, May 1st, 1989, Disney MGM Studios opens up in Walt Disney World. And when it opens up, it is a massive success. And that's not even like an exaggeration at all. It was such a huge success that they were coming up with brand new ideas on the fly of ways to bring people into the park, because there were so many people coming into the park, on ways to kind of expand the park so more people could do things while they were inside the area. Now, you have to remember, back on May 1st, 1989, there were literally not one, not two, but only 3 attractions found throughout Disney MGM Studios. There was the Great Movie Ride, may it rest in peace. There was the Disney Animation Building, may it rest in peace. And there was the Studio Backlot Tour, may it rest in peace as well. So there were the 3 different attractions, and when they had those different attractions, they wanted to expand more and more and more things around the park. And so the first thing they came up with was naturally, not Tower of Terror. Naturally, they came up with the idea of maybe expanding the Studio Backlot Tour and having so it was not just a 2-hour tour, but a 4-hour tour. Great idea, guys. So they came up with different things like Muppets Today, or that's not it. They came up with like Muppet Vision 3D. Here Comes the Muppets was the original predecessor to Muppet Vision 3D. And then they came up with things like Voyage of the Little Mermaid, Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, etc., etc., etc. However, they didn't really have that many attractions that were really bringing people in like the thrill ride category, because honestly, there's not many thrill rides around at Disney MGM Studios around on opening day. So what they decided to do was they decided to have it so they would do a park expansion. The very first time that they would ever do a park expansion here at Disney's MGM Studios. Disney MGM Studios, not Disney's. So the idea was to have it so they would create a brand new attraction or a brand new land, and that would be known as Sunset Boulevard. Now, prior to Sunset Boulevard, we did have Beauty and the Beast live on stage. If you guys have ever gone to Disney MGM Studios before 1994, you guys may have remembered that the Theater of the Stars, the theater that actually has Beauty and the Beast live on stage, used to be where like the Starbucks is located now, and like the little tip board and stuff. That was actually the entrance to the Theater of the Stars. I vividly remember going down Hollywood Boulevard and seeing that massive theater just right off the street there. But that's where Beauty and the Beast live on stage ran from 1991 until 1994. And then in 1994, they decided to expand that area and create Sunset Boulevard. Now, when they were coming up with ideas for Sunset Boulevard, they went back to Michael Eisner's idea of having some sort of drop ride where guests would be suspended and then drop down. Now, the thing they had to figure out was how they're going to fit that theming in to Disney MGM Studios, because Disney MGM Studios, obviously at that point, and still to this day, that main section of the park was all based around 1930s and 1940s Hollywood. So how on earth can you do a drop ride attraction and theme it around 1930s and 1940s Hollywood? Now, the thing came in the most obscure way possible. They decided they needed to have a brand new hotel at Walt Disney World, naturally. So the idea was have it the idea was to have it so they would actually bring a hotel into the park where guests could enter into the park from this hotel, but the hotel would also be an attraction, and it would be that drop ride attraction. And together, they could have it so the theming for the drop ride attraction and the hotel would go hand in hand with one another. However, the idea of actually having this be an actual hotel was dropped, mainly due to the fact that when they were coming up with different ideas, they realized that maybe people who were going to be sleeping in their rooms would be kind of upset if they kept on hearing people scream on the ride throughout the entire day when they just wanted to sit back and relax at their hotel room to get away from the park for a few hours. So the idea of the hotel was dropped, and then they were kind of trying to figure out how on earth can you do a hotel theme and base it into 1930s and 40s Hollywood, but also have it so it's based around a drop sequence attraction. It's kind of messed up. There's a lot of different things to put into perspective. So naturally, the first thing that they thought of was the Twilight Zone. Now, the Twilight Zone was a popular show back in the 1950s, and it only ran for about, I think it was 4 or 5 seasons, maybe 6, but I want to say 5 might have been the max. So there's 5 seasons that happened, and all the things took ordinary people and threw them into extraordinary events. Let's go through a few of my favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone of all time. There's 2, because we're actually going to get back to these 2 as time goes on. My first one we talked about several times in the past here, but the idea was there was an author, and the author would write different things down, and while he would write these different things down, things would come to life. So eventually, he wrote a story about this girl, and his wife came in, and she said, "Why is there a woman in the house? I don't understand what's going on." And he goes, "No, it's not what you think. I actually, like, part of my thing as a writer is I will go through and I will write different things down, and those things will actually appear and become real." And she says, "No, that's not true." And the entire episode, she keeps on bothering him, and he goes, "Oh, you know what? I can't stand this anymore." So he holds up an envelope, and on that envelope, it says Virginia West, which was the name of his wife. And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to prove it to you. This is your name. I created you. I made you up." And he takes it and he throws it in the fireplace, and his wife disappears because he made her. At the end of the very episode, Rod Serling, the host of The Twilight Zone, comes out and he says, "Of course, all these different things are completely factual, and none of this is actually real. None of this would actually ever happen, blah, 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 blah." And the author holds up the envelope, and it says Rod Serling on it, and says, "Oh, Rod, I wouldn't say that if I were you." And he throws it into the fireplace, and then Rod Serling disappears. Side note, the guy who actually played the author is Keenan Wynn. Keenan Wynn, like, he did so many different Disney films. His most popular was probably Snowball Express. Not his most popular, just my favorite of all the ones he did. He did things like The Shaggy Dog, Son of Flubber, Herbie Rides Again, and then, of course, Snowball Express. And he's done several other movies throughout the years. Edwin, who was the voice of the Mad Hatter and appeared in several different films, including Mary Poppins, where he was played Bert. That was actually his father. So Edwin, and then Keenan Wynn is his son. Complete side note there. Okay. Great movie writing, Brother Bear, rest in peace. See, let's throw that. You guys say things in the chat room. I'm going to throw them up here every now and then. I kind of like the idea that we can throw people's stuff down there. So anyways, that's one of my favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone. And the other favorite episode is a man who just wants to read. And he just wants to read. He's got all these books, and every time that he wants to read, something comes in the way, whether it's his job, his family, anything and everything is always bothering him. And finally, one day he says, "I've had enough. I'm going into the bomb shelter, and I'm going to sit back and read." So he brings all of his books into the bomb shelter, and he closes it up. And right when he closes it up, there's a nuclear bomb that blasts out, and it kills everyone in mankind except for him. So he comes out, and he's shocked because there's no one around, and he is so relieved because finally he has time to read. So he takes the first book, he's about to read it, and all of a sudden his glasses fall off, the lenses break, and he can no longer read because the lenses are broken. So that's kind of little nods to the Twilight Zone. So what the Imagineers did was they went through and they watched every single episode of the Twilight Zone from, I want to say it's 5 seasons, through all 5 seasons. And they wanted to have it so they could take different elements of that and try to figure out what to do to create more of an experience for people to kind of go through and enjoy the Twilight Zone or the Tower of Terror. So they started to create the attraction. And when they decided to create the attraction, there was a few different hiccups that they found along the way. Number one was they wanted to have it so you would drop naturally. Now, when you would go to different places to do research about how to have it so you can drop in an elevator, of course, those places are going to say, well, that's not what we want elevators to do. So this is how you would have it drop, but it's, you shouldn't be doing this. And the Imagineer said, nope, this is exactly what we want to do. So they went over to one of these elevator places. They took off the brakes. They dropped someone about 10 stories. And when they got to the bottom, they said, it just wasn't fast enough. So what the Imagineers decided that they had to do is they actually had to do a brand new system where you would pull down or pull up the guests that were inside of the elevator, and that way they would actually be going faster than gravity instead of having it so they're falling at the same level as gravity. If you have ever, and I don't recommend doing this because they frown against this, but if you've ever gone on Tower of Terror back in like the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of people would go on and on and on about if you take a quarter and you put it in your hand, this is just the back of a Mickey pin, but if you put a quarter in your hand and when you were falling down on Tower of Terror, the quarter would hover above you. I've seen this with my camera strap. I've had my camera on me, and it just will slowly hover above you as you are completely pulled down to the ground. So anyways, so they decided that they have to pull down and they have to pull up to have it so these guys could truly experience a free fall that was faster than gravity. When all this stuff was said and done, they said, this is good, but it's not good enough. We want to have it so people truly feel like you're going through the Twilight Zone. And in order to do that, we need to have it so you go up in an elevator and then you go forward and then you are dropped down. So the final element was added where you would go up in the elevator and then you would enter into a wireless track room and you would go through a room. And in the room, you were actually going through the Twilight Zone, through the fifth dimension. And then you would eventually get to the despair that was awaiting you at the other side. Let's see. All right. Any other questions so far while we go through here? We're not even close to being done yet. But if anyone has any questions while we go through here, again, feel free to throw those questions down in the thing. I absolutely love Mission Breakout at Disney California Adventure, but I'm really glad that they're keeping the Tower of Terror as is in Walt Disney World. It's nice to having both to visit in the U.S. I 100% agree, Eric. Mission Breakout is great, but at the same time, it is nice having it so you can do one on each coast. Side note, I absolutely despised the Disneyland version of Tower of Terror. It just wasn't as good as the Walt Disney World version. Because going through the fifth dimension is just what makes that attraction so cool, in my opinion. Okay, so when they were coming up with the idea of going through, they wanted to have it so you would go through some sort of paranormal experience to have it so it would explain why part of the building was missing, because naturally they wanted to have it so when you were going up and down on the elevator, the doors would open up and there you could see Central Florida in the version of Disney MGM Studios. So the idea was having it so they would have to lose part of the building somehow, and the idea came from an earthquake originally, but eventually it ended up being a lightning strike. So the story was placed with the idea of Rod Serling introducing us and talking about how we are the brand new episode in the Twilight Zone. Hollywood, 1939. Amidst the glitz and the glamour of a bustling young movie town, the Hollywood Tower Hotel was a star in its own right. You know the spiel. So he was going through and having it so he would go through and explain what was going on. And essentially what happens was five strangers stepped aboard an elevator and into a nightmare. And the five people would go up, the lightning or the building was struck by lightning. They dropped and they were never seen again. They entered into the Twilight Zone. Little Muppet Haunted Mansion reference. So when they were going through, they came up with the storyline, but the only problem they had was Rod Serling, unfortunately, was no longer with us. So if you've ever watched any episode of the Tower, or not, if you've ever watched any episode of the Twilight Zone, it usually begins with Rod Serling starting us off and talking about something. In one of the episodes, he talks about the Tower of Terror. Actually, he doesn't. But he talks about something else. He talks about a map of the United States. So the whole thing starts off with, this is, you may recognize, as a map of the United States. If you watch the Tower of Terror pre-show, in it, he says, this is, you may recognize, is a map. And as soon as he says map, it switches over to a voiceover artist, and the entire thing switches to a picture of a maintenance elevator. So they did a dub of him. So the first part is actually a clip of Rod Serling going through and saying, this, as you may recognize, is a map of the United States. So they cut it off at map of the United States, and they switch it over to maintenance service elevator, and then the rest of the attraction pre-show is done by a voiceover artist. Ironically, the voiceover artist actually knew Rod Serling in real life. So that is our history. I think that's our history. Am I forgetting anything? I'm probably forgetting one or two things. If anyone has any questions while we continue going through, we're going to do a walkthrough of the attraction now. But if anyone has any questions, throw the questions down into the comments, and we're going to go through and discuss those as well. Now, I'm very curious about the everything else here. Oh, look at that. I can switch my... Oh, there we go. I like that. No. I like... Yeah, that's the one. Okay. I'm still learning how to do this whole multiple platform thing. So hopefully you guys are sticking with me here. I mean, it's showing people are still sticking with me. Okay, so let's get to the walkthrough of the attraction. This is where we're going to be talking about things. Why is the hotel vacant? Great question. The hotel is vacant because of the Twilight Zone experience that they had. So, I know what I was going to say about the history. We're going to get to the hotel vacant question in just a second. I'm going to throw it up there so I don't forget it. Oh, wait a minute. That switches up the thing. Okay, well... Do you like it better the other way? Because that one you can like really see your guys' face. Like you guys can be like, yeah, look at me, I'm on the Wednesday show. Well, okay, we're gonna get to the question about why is the hotel vacant in a second. So when the attraction first opened up, guests would actually have it so you would go through, they would raise you up, and then you would drop down, and that was the ride. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was the entire attraction. You would raise up, they would drop you down, and that was it. Eventually, as time would go on, they started to realize that maybe we should have it so it would raise you up, drop you down, raise you up again, drop you down. 2 drops, not too bad. And then eventually in 2009, over in Disneyland, this is going to get to Disney World, don't worry. In Disneyland in 2009, they started something called Nighttime, what was it called? Summer Nightastic. Summer Nightastic was a 2-year-long special thing that they did during the summer over in Disneyland. In 2009, it started. In 2010, they decided to bring it over to Walt Disney World as well. Now, the idea of Summer Nightastic was they wanted to bring brand new experiences into these attractions that everyone already knew and loved, and have it so people would have a reason to go back and try brand new things. Part of the thing that they decided to do for Summer Nightastic was bring in a brand new drop sequence. So they had it so there was not just one, not just two, not three, but there was actually 4 different random drop sequences that guests could do. So when you would go on Tower of Terror, you never really know what drop sequence you would get. When they decided to do this, one of the things that they did add in was adding a picture into the attraction. And I don't mean the picture that they take on the ride, but there's a different picture that they added, and it's not used today anymore, but it was about 2 or 3 years ago still being used. And we're going to get to that when we start doing our walkthrough in just a second here. So when my grandson rode Tower of Terror for the first time, he got off and insisted he call his dad. He was 5. I'm thinking, oh, Grampy's got his dad all excited and tells his dad it was just like a trampoline. That's pretty cool. Okay, so why is the hotel vacant? So the hotel is vacant because of the storyline that takes place. Now we're going to kind of go into the storyline as we started going through the entire thing. But essentially, after the lightning strike, most of the hotel was destroyed. A lot of different mysterious things began to happen. And when those mysterious things began to happen, they decided it was best to have it so the hotel just would not be used anymore. So when you're going through the entire building, a lot of things don't seem really, they're upkept. And that's not because Disney was slacking, but that's actually because Disney intentionally made it so it looked like it was not being upkept. Okay, so let's do our walkthrough here. So our walkthrough is going to start off, let's start off at Hollywood Boulevard, because that's, the natural place to do. So when you enter into Hollywood Boulevard, or I'm sorry, not Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard. So when you enter onto Sunset Boulevard from Hollywood Boulevard, that's where I was going, on the right-hand side, you can see the Legends of Hollywood building. It's that giant white marquee building. It's got the Pandora shop inside it. If you look to the right of that building, if you look to the right of the entrance of that building, on the right of the entrance, you can actually see the very first sign of the Tower of Terror, which is a advertisement for the Tower of Terror. It is talking about the Hollywood Tower Hotel and how it's supposed to be all the, glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Now, another reason why this is a vacant hotel is not because it's been whatever, 1939 to now. How many years is that? 82 years. So it's not because in 82 years no one came in. You also have to remember that our storyline that we are taking place in while we're on Sunset Boulevard until we get over to Rock and Roller Coaster is we are in a Hollywood of the 1930s and 1940s. So as you continue going down Sunset Boulevard, the architecture styles do change a little bit, and those architecture styles are changing with the times of different buildings you could find in Sunset or on Sunset Boulevard in actual Hollywood that came out in the 1930s and 1940s. So by the time that we get towards the Tower of Terror, we are getting closer to the 1940s, mid-1940s, about 1945. So in reality, the hotel has been vacant for about 5 or 6 years by the time that we actually get to it. Also, side note, if you've ever gone into the lobby of the Tower of Terror, which I assume you have if you've ever done the attraction, if you look around, the entire architecture of that building was actually inspired by a place that is found on Hollywood Boulevard over in actual Hollywood. So if you know, Grauman's Chinese Theater's here. Right across the way, kind of kitty corner from it, is where the El Capitan Theater is, the one that Disney actually owns. If you go down 2 blocks on the left-hand side, there's a hotel there. If you go inside that hotel, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but if you go inside there, the entire inside looks identical. Like I went over there one time when I was in Hollywood, and I was like, I have to see this hotel, see if it actually like really looks like Tower of Terror. And you go through it, and it's like, holy cow, this is really cool. So it's really worth checking out at some point. Anyways, when we go down to the end of the tower, the end of Sunset Boulevard, we get to the Tower of Terror, or the Hollywood Tower Hotel, as we are going to try to refer to it as, because that's the technical name of it. Tower of Terror is just the name of the attraction. So when we get there, we eventually get through the little garden area. And while you're going through the garden area, like I said, most of the things that are in there are not well upkept because it's an abandoned hotel. The bellhops that are found around there are not supposed to be they're supposed to be kind of ghostly. So if you've ever gone during some special events, they do have it so they dress them up a little bit so they appear to be more ghost-like than actual humans that are walking around just, hey, can I have your baggage? If you go into the maintenance elevator, I'm going to give you a ride. Ha! It's going to be an amazing ride that puts you up and down in the air. I don't know if any of the bellhops actually talk like that, but I assume that at least one of them does. So when you're going through the lobby area, so when you enter into the lobby area, there are a few different things that have to be looked at. Not just a few. There's a ton of different things that we have to look at. Let's start off on our left-hand side. So when you first walk in on your left-hand side, you can find a little table, and on that table is, I always forget how to pronounce it. Is it mahjong? The little tile game? It usually comes with computers, but it's an actual tile game from China. I think it's pronounced mahjong, but I could be wrong. And it's got the little things, and you have to match them up and different things like that. Well, there are actual people who compete in this game in real life, and what the Imagineers decided to do was they wanted to bring over 2 of the most upper, the highest ranked in the entire world. They brought them there, they had them play for a while, and then they said, okay, and just leave it, because they wanted to have it so it came down and it looked like it was an abandoned game. So if you go over there, that is an actually played game that is actually in the middle of being played. So I can imagine that I'm sure those people are probably thrilled that Disney said, okay, you might be winning right now, but stop playing. Get out of here. So the game is an actual game played by actual experts and completely abandoned. On our right-hand side, on the opposite side of the room, we have a good question here. I love how the color matched Morocco and Epcot. They did that so it would blend in correct. Yes, so if you are looking at Morocco from kind of near Mexico, and you can see Tower of Terror off in the distance, the backside of Tower of Terror is painted just a slightly different color than the rest of it, and that's the matching with the Morocco architecture. So on the right-hand side, we have a table, and on that table is a bunch of different fun finds. My favorite one of all of them is there is a magazine on there. It is an actual Time magazine featuring Walt Disney himself from 1939, right around the time that the Tower of Terror would have been struck by lightning, or the Hollywood Tower Hotel would have been struck by lightning. It is an actual magazine. It is glued down, so don't try to go over there and steal it, but it is glued down, and has it so, you can see it there, but it's very, very tough to see because they have not dusted in there for ages, mainly due to the fact that they want to have it so it appears like it has not been dusted for ages. It's supposed to fit in with the theming. Behind that table on the right-hand side against the wall, you can find a bunch of different flags from different countries all around the world. To the left of that, you can find a AAA Diamond Award. Now, AAA always does the 5 diamonds, 3 diamonds, 5 diamonds. Is it 5 diamonds? Is there like the highest reward? I want to say it's 5. Alex, you would know best. If you're still watching. So this is the only time that any hotel has actually been awarded a 13 diamond award, because 13 is obviously the theme that's going to be going throughout the entire attraction here. To the left of that, there's like a giant poster board. On that poster board, it talks about the Tip Top Club. The Tip Top Club is going to be featuring a band that night, and obviously that band never would be able to play up there because the tower was vacated that night. Across the way in the main lobby, we have so many different things that you can take a look at. Obviously, the most famous one is the owl statue that is in the very center of the area. The owl statue that you can find here was an actual owl statue that is found in the pre-show video. Now, fun fact, the pre-show video that you can watch in the Tower of Terror pre-show room was not filmed at Disney's Hollywood Studios. They actually created a soundstage that replicated what the Tower of Terror lobby looked like and filmed it and then replicated it. I don't understand why they didn't. But anyways, that's besides the point. So there's the owl statue. To the right of the owl statue, you can find the front desk. When you're looking at the front desk of the Tower of Terror lobby, you can find behind it, there are a bunch of different room keys and room little boxes for people who would get different letters and different mails from different people around the world. So if you go through, how do you know it's curiosity? I've never actually tried to do it, but anyways, let's continue here. Again, if you guys have any questions while we go through here, make sure you throw those questions down in the comments below, and we're going to continue getting through as many questions as possible. We have about 20 minutes left here before we wrap up our show, and I'm still trying to... Okay, so there's a bunch of different letters and stuff there. One of my favorite letters that is found over there, again, I've never actually read it, but I did a tour with one of the Imagineers years and years and years ago, or not the Imagineers. I did a tour with one of the cast members years and years and years ago. He's the guy who's actually, his name's TJ. You guys probably heard of TJ before. He was in a lot of the promotional stuff. He was like the creepy bellhop that was like, I'm gonna kill you. And he was on the park maps for years, and he's kind of a Disney icon because of all the different things that he's done with Disney throughout the years. He gave me a tour back in like 2010, I want to say. Like, it was literally like 11 years ago that he gave me a tour. But while he was giving the tour, he talked about one of the letters that was back there was from a lady who absolutely loved Tower of Terror. She would go on Tower of Terror all the time, but she did have a heart problem. And when she was getting closer to her death, she wanted to just ride Tower of Terror a few more times. And she was a local, so she would go over there often. And her very last time ever on Tower of Terror was on a ride with all the bellhops. She just requested, I just want to ride one ride with all the bellhops. And so she got her picture taken, obviously, on the attraction with a bunch of different bellhops. It was one person, a bunch of bellhops. And after she passed away, there was a letter that was given to Disney by her daughter talking about how much the bellhops had meant to her and how much that moment had meant to her. And that letter sits behind the front desk there for the Hollywood Tower Hotel to this day, or at least 11 years ago. But I'm assuming that I would assume that it's still there to this day. All right. So next thing up is the actual elevators. So there are 2 elevators in the main lobby. You do not actually get to use these elevators because obviously they are not working anymore because, you know, back in Hollywood 1939, 5 strangers boarded an elevator and stepped into a nightmare, and the elevator went out of service after that time. So if you look through there, yes, Mark Silverman was the voice actor. So when you go through there and you look at the 2 elevators, in between it, there is like a directory, and there's also these signs that say, like, you know, tower or elevator out of service. But there is a directory behind it. The directory used to always have one of the coolest Easter eggs ever, but it was not an official Easter egg. It was different cast members who were switching it over to this. And eventually that was just completely scrapped. And the Imagineer said, you have to stop switching this. But if you looked at it, it had the directory and it had all the different things. Like the Tip Top Club was on level 13. The pool was on the lobby level, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you looked at the bottom of it, on the bottom of it, it actually said, with the letters that have fallen off throughout the years, Evil Tower, you are doomed. Okay, now let's go into the pre-show areas. Now there are two different pre-show areas for the Tower of Terror. There's one on the right-hand side, there's one on the left-hand side. You would think that both of these would be the exact same. However, they are not. There are some similarities. There's a lot of similarities, but not all of them are the exact same thing. So when they were creating the Tower of Terror, they wanted to have it so everything inside of the Tower of Terror would be authentic to 1930s Hollywood. So they went through different estate sales, they went to different garage sales, they went to different antique shops, and made sure that everything in those rooms is completely authentic. In addition to that, what they wanted to do was they wanted to have it so you would go through and you would actually be able to find different things from the actual Twilight Zone episodes. So there are a few different things from actual Twilight Zone episodes that are in there, and there are also replicas of things from the Twilight Zone episodes that are in there as well. Earlier, we talked about the story about Virginia West and Rod Serling, and then Keenan Wynn, who said, "Oh, Mr. Serling, I wouldn't do that if I were you." The envelopes for Virginia West and Rod Serling can be found in the pre-show rooms. Rod Serling's envelope is on the right-hand side when you're facing the two pre-show rooms. So if you went on the right-hand side, you would find the envelope with Rod Serling's name on it. If you went through the one on the left-hand side, you would find the thing with Virginia West on it. And for Victoria West. Is it Victoria West? I think it's Victoria West. I've been saying Virginia this whole time. I'm almost positive it's Victoria. So you can actually find the names for both the envelopes in there as well. On top of one of those envelopes, there is a piece of paper kind of to the side, and then kind of like, kind of on it, but kind of the side of it. And then on top of that piece of paper are a pair of empty reading glasses. This is a nod to that Twilight Zone episode we talked about earlier, where the guy's glasses fell off. If you look in the top of both rooms, there is a little mechanical statue with like a devil on top, and it says, "Ask me a yes or no question." That is actually from a Tower of Terror episode where a man said, "Hey, we can use this thing. It's going to tell us the whole future." And he would use this demonic device and have it so it would actually predict the future for him, and he would get good things out of it, but then eventually it turned evil against them. In addition to that, on the right-hand side of the Rod Serling envelope, it's not in the other one, but in the Rod Serling envelope one, you can find sheet music right below it to the left-hand side. The sheet music is called "What No Mickey Mouse," which is a song that is actually about what would happen if Mickey Mouse was never invented or never created, and was created back in 1930s. It is not a very Disney-friendly song, or it's not it's not a Disney song. It's created by someone else. But it is an actual song that was created back in the 1930s. In addition to that, let's talk a little bit about the pre-show itself. Now, we already talked about if you look behind me, this is the map of the United States. As Kaylee just pointed out, Mark Silverman was the voice actor. Mark Silverman actually knew Rod Serling growing up, and that is why he did such a great impersonation of him. He would always practice doing impersonations of him. And when Rod Serling passed away, it was Rod Serling's wife who gave Mark Silverman permission to be one of the only people to do voice impersonations of him. So that is how they used him inside of the attraction. When you're watching the pre-show, there are 5 different people. There are a couple, a Hollywood couple. There's a bellhop. There's a lady along with her like a nanny with her little girl. Little girl is actually holding on to a Mickey Mouse. When you see her in ghost form on the actual attraction, she is also holding on to the Mickey Mouse stuffed animal as well. So it's considered a hidden Mickey. Okay. Any questions so far before we get into the actual thing? I'm going to take a drink while you guys take a second to, if you guys have any questions, again, throw them in the question. Unless I'm answering your questions or I'm rambling a lot tonight. So hopefully I'm rambling enough for you guys to actually be learning something here. All right, let's go into the load area. All right, so while you go through the boiler room, first off, there used to be, well, it's still there. There's a lever that's there against the wall. You used to be able to pull it down and it would give you like a small shock, like kind of like a, but it would give you like a small shock to kind of alarm you or alert you or alarm you a little bit, but it actually wasn't a real, like, it wouldn't kill you or anything, but it would give people a little shock. But eventually people complained because it was giving people shocks. So they unfortunately had to take it down. When you're going through the boiler room on your left hand side, before you get to the option of going left or going straight or right, there is a hidden Mickey that's on the wall. It is actually stained on the wall. And then eventually you get to the 4 elevators. Now, the 4 elevators are a little bit deceiving because in reality, there are actually only 2 elevator shafts that pull you up and drop you down. Let's get to this question here real quick. Have you seen the movie? I have seen the movie starring the always amazing Steve Guttenberg and Kirsten Dunst. It was a made-for-TV movie over on the Wonderful World of Disney, I believe, back in 1998. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 1998. I did not do any research about this, but I should have done some research about the Tower of Terror movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I have it on DVD. I don't even know if it's on Disney Plus, but I do have it on DVD. In that movie, the 5 people who end up in the elevator, well, not the bellhop, but the other 4 people, the names of those characters actually can be found, not anymore. They actually just got rid of it, and I'm really mad. But about a quarter of the way down Sunset Boulevard, there is a sign for Route 66 in front of the Vogue, Villains in Vogue, or whatever it's called now. It's not called that anymore. But in front of there is a bunch of luggage things. If you look at the luggage tags, or if you used to look at the luggage tags, they were actually the names of those characters that were in the elevator in the movie. But for some reason, a few years ago, they got rid of that. I'm still really bummed that they got rid of that. I actually went over to do that as one of my Fun Find videos not that long ago. I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be a great one." And then I was like, "Oh, are you kidding me? It's gone." So yeah, I've seen the movie. I enjoy the movie. I don't think it's the greatest movie, but I enjoy the movie. I think it's pretty good. Okay, so when you get into the elevators, there are 4 elevators. But like I said, only you drop 2 things. So this is pretty much just the way to load. So we'll do it this way here. All right, so we got the 2 elevators here. Let's go with these 2 right here. Okay, so you get in this elevator and this elevator, they go to the exact same spot. So you go up and they go into the Twilight Zone. So one will go up and it'll start going down. The other one's loading. Then that one will go up when the other one gets to the shaft to drop people down. And then they'll go forward. So it varies, goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So 4 elevator load areas, 2 unload areas. It's kind of confusing. But anyways, when you get into the elevator, you go up, and the first thing you go up to is about 3 or 4 stories up in the air, and it takes you to our first spot. You look down a hallway, and you see the 5 ghosts of the people who disappeared on that Hollywood night so many years ago. They start beckoning for you to come, and you hear the girl, "It's raining, it's pouring, it's raining, it's pouring." There's nothing creepier in films than little girls singing. So all of a sudden everything goes black, and then it starts to go through, and you see the Twilight Zone. One of the windows comes towards you, and it cracks. When they used to do this segment, this was during the Summer Nightastic events back in 2010. This is when they would take your picture, and eventually, like I said, we're going to talk about in just a second, where it would go through and show you again. But like I said, the little girl is also holding onto a Mickey Mouse stuffed animal, and the other 5 people, or the other 4 people, are just kind of, eerie. They're kind of weirded out because we're looking at them and we're about to have the same fate that they had, which is death. Then we go up a few more stories and we enter into the 5th dimension. Now, while we go through the 5th dimension, we have several different things that are found throughout the rooms. The majority of these are actually found in the opening, or the actual intro for the Twilight Zone television series. So you have a clock there, you have a giant eyeball, you've got the E equals MC squared, and all these different things that are just kind of found around you. On the one side, it depends on which elevator shaft you're going into, but some of them it's on the left-hand side, some of them it's on the right-hand side. There is a giant eyeball. If you look at the giant eyeball, it blinks, and then all of a sudden you see an elevator that goes by, or a elevator that you would be in go by. This is actually where the picture used to take when you would see. Yeah, I'm losing my touch here. When you would go through and the elevator doors would open up and you would look through and you would see the 5 different people and it would take the picture. When you got to the eyeball, you would actually see yourself in the eyeball going through. Eventually, they got rid of this a few years ago, just mainly due to the fact that I think no one really was noticing it at all. Right before you get to the doors that would open up, it is a mirrored effect, and it has all the different lights, and they scatter. Right before they scatter, there is a hidden Mickey that is found there, and then you enter into the elevator shaft, where Rod Serling says, many nights ago, or several years ago, 5 people stepped into an elevator and into a nightmare. And eventually he says, the Twilight Zone. And you drop or you go up depending on which sequence you got. And when you get up there to the top, you have the greatest view of Disney's Hollywood Studios, and you also can see Blizzard Beach off on the right-hand side. Way off to the right-hand side, you can see Expedition Everest and Pandora. A lot of people don't notice this, but I've gone on it so many times, like, ooh, what's out there? It is better to see a lot of the stuff if you're on the right-hand side, or when you're looking at it if you're on the left-hand side, because there's not as much stuff blocking your view. Because depending on where you are, there is the sign that says the Hollywood Tower Hotel. That is what you're behind, but you can still see out and see enough things out there while you're up at the top. Eventually, you get down to the bottom of the elevator, and when you get to the bottom of the elevator, you find a dummy there, and the dummy is actually, again, from one of the Twilight Zone episodes. This is not actually one of the props, but it is a replica of one of the characters that was found in one of the Twilight Zone episodes. Right next to him, you can find a cash register, also found in one of the Twilight Zone episodes. And then eventually they said, this is not something you would find in any guidebook. And the doors open up, and you're on your merry, merry, merry way to your life because you lived. Yay. Okay, so that is our walkthrough of Tower of Terror. Does anyone have any questions? We have about 10 minutes left to take your questions and go through answering anything and everything that you guys want to go through. That shows nothing on my screen. But there's Kayla's. I like the Mickey pumpkin though, Kayla. Okay. Any other questions? Did I get a second one of these hats? No, I did not get a second one of these hats. Not yet. I might get one still, but it's $45. All right. Any Tower of Terror questions? Anyone? Before we wrap it up here. And also, while we're on this, did this work well? Like, did the YouTube and Facebook, did it work well? Like, is it broadcasting well for both people? Like, if you're on Facebook, is it working for you? If you're on YouTube, is it working for you? I'm curious about that stuff as well. In addition, if you guys have any questions about anything. Because on my end, it actually seems like it worked really well. Like, surprisingly well. How is the Disneyland Paris version much different? Okay, that's a good question. We should talk about this. So the order that they did these parks in was Tower of Terror at Walt Disney World. Then they opened the Tower of Terror over at Disneyland, which is a different version. Now it's Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. But the way that one was is you would back up, and then you would go up, and there'd be a mirror in front of you, and they would say the Tower of Terror, and then you would drop and start going through your drop sequence. And it was fun. It just, to me, it wasn't as good. I like the idea of moving forward in the attraction. Like, I always thought that was really cool. The very first time I ever went on Tower of Terror, I vividly remember, it must have been like 1996. I would have been like 12 years old, and no one else in my family wanted to go on it. And in all the posters and all the promos, they showed a room full of people standing up, and it was like a picture from above, and everyone was like, like freaking out because the whole room was dropping. And when I saw that pre-show for the very first time, and they said that the Twilight Zone and all the lights go off, when that happened, I was like, oh my God, this is it. For some reason, I thought that room was about to drop, and luckily I was wrong because it's been terrifying. But anyways, so Disneyland's version was the second one that opened up, and then they opened up the one over in Disneyland Paris, which is an exact duplicate of the one that is over at California. Obviously not anymore because Guardians of the Galaxy is there. And then when they opened up the one over at Tokyo Disney Sea, they decided to come up with a brand new storyline, and the storyline is about I forget his first name off the top of my head. Someone Hightower, Albert Hightower. No, Albert's the name of the monkey in Mystic Manor. Something Hightower, but it's he's got all these lavish things up in the top floor and all these artifacts, and unfortunately something cracks one of the artifacts and it causes the elevator to kind of take hold and pretty much always try to kill everyone, just like you would in all the other ones. But a different storyline, but same storyline at the same time. If that makes sense at all. I have not done it over there. I've been avoiding videos of it like the play because I want to get over there someday. But hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Okay, let's keep on going through our questions here. Did the outdoor fountain ever have water? No, it's always been vacant. Just like everything else, they always wanted to have it so it looked like it was abandoned, like everything else inside the hotel. So there has never been any water in there. All the light fixtures that they have inside of there have never turned on. They are completely made specifically for that attraction to look like they used to be used, but they're not used anymore, which I think is pretty cool. Works great on YouTube. Yeah. Okay, any other questions out there before we wrap up this bad boy? Yeah, I'm kind of happy with how at least on my end it's working really well. I think the only problem is I'm going to be trying to figure out how to exit out later. I'm like, wait, how am I stuck in here? Are people hearing me go to the bathroom in the other room right now? I had that fear earlier too because I turned this on beforehand without starting the broadcast, and I was like, wait a minute. Well, I was like, washing my hands. I was like, can people hear me wash my hands around the corner? But luckily, I don't think it worked, or I don't think it did. Okay, so it looks like that might be all of our questions. So on that note, I'd like to remind you guys that tonight's show is, as always, sponsored by It's All About the Mouse Travel. Make sure you stop by it'sallaboutthemousetravel.com for all of your Disney travel needs. All their services are absolutely, positively, 100% free. So make sure you book with them for your next Disney vacation. I'd like to thank everyone out there for joining us once again this week. If you have not been checking out our daily YouTube videos, some of you guys are clearly on YouTube. You're on it right now. Make sure you're watching all the YouTube videos. If you have not already, make sure you give it a thumbs up, even if you hate it. Give it a thumbs up. If you guys give it a thumbs up and leave a comment, it truly, truly makes a huge difference for the analytics. So every like and every comment truly does help, and I do greatly appreciate every single one of you guys who does give a like and comment, and the ones who don't do it. No, I still appreciate all of you guys too. But if you guys have the time, make sure you give it a like, give it a comment, and make sure you check out those videos every single day. We do have more videos coming out tomorrow, so make sure you continue to check them out every single day. Also, if you have not ordered your copy of A Closer Look Yet, or A Closer Look Yet, or A Closer Look Yet, make sure you go visit the Shop Now button at the top of the screen if you're on Facebook, or go check out the thing in my bio if you are on YouTube to order your books today, and I will ship them out tomorrow. And of course, as always, remember that anything can happen if you let it. Have a great week, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Are they gone? Are they gone? Oh, good. My cheeks are just killing me. I just can't stand this kind of pressure.